Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through how to set your Graphtec up for doing both kiss and die cut stickers. In my last video, I had a brief snippet that showed you where you should put your blade in the tool holder so that way you can do both kiss and die cut stickers. I didn't really go into too much detail, I just kind of did a quick thing on it. So I figured why not show you today exactly how I have my Graphtec set up. I'm going to show you how I do both kiss and die cut stickers, blade depth that I use, and what pressure I use, and how I determine the pressure that I need. I'm not going to walk you through how to calibrate the Graphtec because I've already done that in a previous video, which I'll link below, but I figured I'd at least show you how to do this. So if you're just getting into making stickers, or you've been making them for a while, but maybe you still quite haven't figured out how to use your Graphtec to its full potential, this video is for you. Okay, so I'm out in my shop right now, and the first thing I want to talk about before we get into the Graphtec are blades. So you have different degrees of blades, 60 degrees, 45 degrees, and so on, right? I always use 60-degree blades for what I do, which is primarily cutting stickers. I use that for both kiss and die cut stickers. No need to change the angle, in my opinion. And when it comes to the brand blades, you have a few that you can choose from, well, really two, that most people go with. You have Graphtec Actual, and then I believe it's US cutter blades, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong on that. I'll find them and leave a link down below for you guys. But what I've been using for the past couple of years, honestly, is I've been using just some generic ones off of Amazon, which are these right here. So I can get them focused for you. Which is this brand right here. And they're really cheap. You know, it probably cost about $11 for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, for 12 of these right here. So essentially $1 a piece almost, right? And compared to Graphtec, which is $120 plus, I think, for 1 or 2 blades, and then the US cutter, again, don't quote me on that, but I believe those are about $20 a blade. And with these particular blades here, I get about 1,000 cuts out of these if I'm doing nothing but die cutting, and then I just discard the blade. And to me, that's totally acceptable. Sometimes I've gotten more out of them, and sometimes I've gotten less, you know, but overall, I just prefer these. They're cheaper. I don't need to worry about spending $120 plus on a blade. Yeah, that might last me 6 months, but you know what? So will these, if not longer, and I'm paying a fraction of the cost. So anyways, I prefer these. That's just what I recommend. You can find them on Amazon, but great tool. And 60-degree blades, like I said, are primarily what I use. So with that being said, we'll go ahead, transition over to the Graphtec, and I'll walk you through some of the settings and how to do your test cuts and things like that. All right, now that we have what type of blades I use covered, let's talk about blade depth. So I have a sticker here, just a scrap sticker from lying around, you know, that I didn't like the way it came out. So I just have this, and I have a tool holder, a blade holder, all right, with a blade in it that you can see right in here, kind of, if the light hits it right. Okay, so you're going to hear some people tell you on a Graphtec, depending on what you're doing, you have to keep that in mind, that you should barely feel the blade coming out of the end right here. And for a lot of applications, that's fine, especially if you're just cutting vinyl for like windshield decals and things like that. But what I have found is I stick the blade out far enough to where it goes through the vinyl that I'm working with, and the lamination as well, not just the vinyl. So this is a laminated piece. I measure the blade to where it just barely goes past right here, and I can feel it a little bit. That way I know I'm getting the penetration I need through the vinyl and the laminate to get a clean cut. Okay, so here we are on the Graphtec. So we already talked about what type of blades I use and the depth that I like to have them at. So now let's talk through conditions. So the first thing you want to do is you want to hit the condition button, and I'm in condition 1, which is fine. That's what we're going to go with, but you have up to 8 conditions, 1 through 8. Okay, so if we want to mess with 8, there's a couple things I want to do. So the first thing I'm going to check on for me personally is number 4, the force. So I have it set to 10 right now, and I'm going to leave it at that, but if I wanted to change it, I would just hit number 4 and then use the arrows to go up and down to gauge how hard I should be, how much pressure I want. So the next thing that I go through, this is a kiss cut, right? So for kiss cut, I want to go into cut line pattern, and I have that set as off. So you would hit number 2, make sure that's off because it's just continuous. There's no reason, it's not a perf cut or anything like that. So that's why you want to do that. And then the next thing I worry about is tool assign. So I have all my tools assigned to number 3, as you can see, and the purpose for that is that gets the blade set right over the channel on the Graphtec, and I never have to move it from there, which you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a minute. So with those settings in mind, I'm going to do a test cut. So you can see down at the bottom here it says test cut. Use the arrows to dictate how you want to do that, and then you're going to move the blade where you want it. And once you have it in a spot you're willing to do a test cut, you just hit enter. So let me readjust the camera so you can get a view of this, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we're moving the blade into position where I want to do a test cut, and then once it's in position I just hit enter and it does a test cut. So now I would just come down here and look, and actually I think that's probably pretty good, and you can see that peeled right out. So it's probably not the best on this camera, but nonetheless. So that's actually a great setting. It didn't go through, so now I know if this wasn't laminated that that's the pressure I would want to use, which is the force of 10 on this particular vinyl, and it is set and ready to go for kiss cut. Here we are trying to get you a slightly better view. So again, right here is that channel, and this is the cutting strip. But if you position and set your Graphtec up right, you never need to have your blade move from being over this channel right here. Okay, I'm going to show you how to set your file up if you want to do a dual kiss/die cut sticker. And reasons why you might want to do that is if, say, you have something like this right here, where you have a sticker with a barcode, for example, and you want the sticker to be able to peel away from the barcode, that'd be a perfect application for why you might want to do something like this. So here we have a file, and as you can see, this file is not even prepped and ready to go yet. So first thing I'm going to do is I am going to highlight this layer, come up to the 3 little bars here. I'm going to duplicate this layer, and I'm going to lock that first layer. So I'm only working on the unlocked layer there. So now I take this first image here, and I'm going to do an image trace silhouette. And then we'll expand. Okay. And I'm going to ungroup real quick because I want to get rid of this line right here. Okay. I won't be able to get rid of it on the other one. It's fine. I think we'll be able to work through it, I hope. But for the sake of this, it's absolutely fine. I'm not worried about it. Group that. Okay. So then you want to come into here into trim. After you hit trim, we're now going to go back to Pathfinder. There we go. We got it all filled in. Okay. Cool. So now that that's filled in, now I want to offset the path, and I'm going to do it with 0.125. And I'm going to merge these two together, okay, just like I did before. There, now that it's merged together, I'm going to get rid of that. And we're going to make sure that this stroke, I use magenta. I'm going to double click the stroke, the color magenta here. And I'm going to change this to, say, cut contour. Just like that. Now I'm going to change that to spot color. Hit OK. And I like to reduce the size down to 0.25 just to make it a little more accurate. So that right there, that pink line is going to end up being our kiss cut layer. So just to keep me on track, I'm going to change the color layer to magenta, and now we're good to go. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a layer 3. So if I come back down to this layer here, go back to properties, and I'm going to hit offset path. Okay, and do the exact same thing. But now I'm going to change the color of this one to green, double click it, and this is going to say cut contour, let's go with 2. Spot color, okay. All right, then I come back to the layer real quick, and I'm going to grab that path. There we go. So now I'm going to unlock that one just so I can move this down there with it, no big deal. Okay, so now that that's set, now we need to add this barcode, right? So I can just delete that one, who cares? But I need to add this barcode. So it depends where you want to add it. So for this, let's just say we turn it to the side, like so, and I want to put it right here, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over here. I like using the rounded, and I'm going to go up to the green layer, and I'm going to make a square. Come back into properties. I'm going to go to stroke, and I'm going to hit that green stroke that we already had set and click that. Okay, so now what you need to do is you have your line there, so you're going to move this up to where it kind of intersects the two layers. You can see right here. So I'm going to highlight these two layers just like that, and I'm going to come back down here into create compound shape, and I'm going to click that. And now that's one solid cut line. So this will end up being the die cut line. So I come into here where it's a real sharp corner. I smooth that out a little bit. And there we go. This file is now set. Again, ignore this line. I just didn't get rid of it. It was just part of the image. That wouldn't be there. That means nothing. But now you can see we have two layers set up. So again, I have a kiss cut layer and a die cut layer. And then on my Graphtec and in my software, I would just set this layer, the kiss cut layer, to condition 1, and then I would set the green layer here to condition 3, and from there I would just let it do its thing. So one cool thing to know that a lot of people when they're first getting into Graphtec don't really know, but you can see I have all these anchor points here, okay, and those anchor points, a Graphtec will stop at those every single time there is one. So if you have like a crazy cut with a lot of lettering and there's a bunch of these, it'll kind of cut and do a perf cut around that too. So just something to know, but no big deal. But anyways, that's how you set the file up. So it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy. The biggest thing to know is depending on your software, again, if you're using Cutting Master 5, you just want to make sure that you have the pink layer, the magenta layer here on top in the software where it says, cutting colors, the layers. You want this to cut first. So this needs to be above the green layer before you send it through the cutter. That's all it has to do. Then you just save this as a PDF and you're good to go. So as you can tell, it's really not that difficult to set your Graphtec up to cut the way you want it to. But what you really need to be focused on is getting in there and understanding the settings in your Graphtec in order to make sure that you're properly applying the appropriate setting based on the material that you're feeding through the machine. That was a mouthful. But not all vinyl is created the same, right? So if you're just looking at using like Oracal and you just want to do actual vinyl decals, then your pressure might be 8 pounds. If you're doing kiss cut and you're using something like Substance or 3M, maybe it's 15 pounds. It's all going to depend on the vinyl you're using and if you're using laminate or not. So you need to make sure that you're doing test cuts prior to actually cutting your project, because if you don't, you'll end up cutting the entire project and realize you either went too deep or you didn't go deep enough. Ask me how I know. So I hope this video helped you. If it did, please consider liking, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Let me know if it was helpful or what I could do in future videos to give you a little bit more information and help you set your equipment up the right way. Until next time, you guys have a great one. Thanks.